Okay, it appears that we are live. I'm not sure why it's showing up orange again. I feel like every other week we broadcast this podcast, it's orange instead of green. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's a YouTube thing, but we are indeed live. Welcome, everyone, to yet another edition of the 4GwQPodcast podcast. This is episode number 196 for January 31st, 2019. It is the last day to get Sea of Thieves 50% off. So go over and do that. I didn't realize it was 50% off this month, but I was scrolling through Twitter and saw that. So if you don't have Sea of Thieves, you don't have Games Pass, go grab that. And I know this man right here, who I'll introduce right now, who's making his 196th straight appearance on this program, ZPCI Assassin. He loves Sea of Thieves, and he's dying to get back into it after the most recent announcements. Am I right?
I mean, the crossplay being removed, or somewhat, is lovely, I think. Best move any game has ever made. And we'll see.
There you go. There you go. And also with us this week, the man who ran the 4 Guys with Quarters Presents podcast last week in my vacation absence. And actually, it was actually a really good episode. I thought it was probably the best you guys have done so far. I thought the conversation was good. I thought the Star Wars topic very aptly fit the whole podcast. But kudos to both of you for being on that. But Clownz was running the show, so we'll give him the credit for running that thing last week. So what's going on, Clownz?
Hey, what's up? Pleasure to be here. Yeah, I mean, having Assassin on was great. We got to get you on that show, Inferno. And I mean, the chat. We actually got some new people in the chat talking about Star Wars to Assassin, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, you guys were totally into it. I thought that a bunch of good hypotheticals were mentioned, and I think it was only until the last question. I think the last question of the podcast went a little crazy when you guys were talking about the what was it, the Millennium Falcon versus the USS Enterprise, or what was it? Is that what it was?
Yeah, that was it. And Assassin was like, it depends on who's on board.
That went a little off the rails. I think you guys were coming up with, Chewbacca getting out of the Millennium Falcon and kicking ass, and R2-D2 kicking. It was just ridiculous. But go back and listen to that. That is on our YouTube channel. That was last week's Thursday podcast. But Clownz, go ahead, since it's a new thing and some people listening may not know about it 100%. Go ahead and plug that show and tell everybody what that thing's about. Now that you guys are about 4 episodes in.
Yeah, so basically the podcast focuses more on comics, anime, manga, off of video games, more pop culture oriented. And actually, our next guest is supposed to be sometime between Friday and Sunday. We have a colorist that works for Marvel on Spider-Man and Deadpool, so she's supposed to be on.
Nice. Perfect. That should be really cool. I'm sure the questions will be good for that one. But I mean, that's what's great about the 4 Guys with Quarters Presents podcast, is that it's not just games, and a lot of it's just not even going to be games. So we realize that a lot of people in our community and the people we engage with on Twitter have interests that are not just gaming, and a lot of people read comics, and a lot of people are interested in the artists that make comics happen. And we're glad to bring you something different, and kudos to Clownz for starting that thing. And we appreciate our good friend from the past, who's kind of we've reconnected with, Maverick, to come on that show and be a full-time member and push the social networking aspect of that. So yeah, good, all around good production. As for this show, we are I just wanted to shout out the Inner Circle Network, which announced on Twitter that they're a business. They're officially a business. So we are one of their affiliate podcasts. They have a bunch of good affiliate podcasts. One of my favorites on there is Next Level Gaming. They're on Friday nights, so tomorrow night they'll be on 9:30 p.m. Eastern on Twitch primarily. Hopefully they make the move back over to YouTube and multi-stream or whatever, because Twitch, it's so easy to get buried on Twitch, and there's such a good show, and I think they deserve more exposure. So go check them out. They're another one of the affiliate podcasts. All the affiliate podcasts are good, but that one is the one I listen to every single week without question. So go check that one out. And also, if you're not subscribed to this one, make sure you do that on YouTube or on your favorite podcast listening platform. All right, Assassin. I mean, should we just get into it right now, or should we start with the topic I was going to start with? Should we start with a company making amends, or should we start with a company that looks like it can't get out of its own way? What do you think? You make the call.
Let's go with the first one he said.
Okay, so you know what the first one is, right?
No.
Okay, so the first one is something that happened. I think that it's probably the most recent thing that happened. We'll get into that right now. Company making amends here. It looks like Rare is finally doing the right thing. So Sea of Thieves finally, and now Assassin, like we said at the beginning of the show, very excited for this. Sea of Thieves is going to be allowing you to disable cross-platform play finally, and it's also adding keyboard and mouse support for Xbox. So this was mentioned on the official developer update on YouTube. If you guys don't follow the official Rare Sea of Thieves feed on YouTube, you should, because they have developer updates. What is it, monthly or is it bi-weekly, Assassin?
It's weekly.
Oh, it's weekly, okay.
Every Tuesday, I believe.
Oh, well, I didn't realize that. I thought it was only monthly. I catch them every now and again. I probably only catch them like once a month. But this most recent one that they did talks about finally cross-platform play and how it's going to be optional finally. It seems like we've been asking for that forever. Am I right, Assassin?
I think probably before day one, to be honest.
Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but back when Sea of Thieves was really starting to get steam back at E3 2017, they were really proud to announce cross-platform play. And obviously, with Games Pass and that being available day one, they were proud to say that, if you got it on, or Play Anywhere and Games Pass actually in conjunction, they were really proud to say that, of course, if you have it on Xbox, you have it on both, right? And you can play with each other on both and everyone be happy, right? But, recently, obviously, there's been a lot of glitching. PC is more easily able to hack, I think, for the general public. Obviously, it's possible on console, but for the general public, I think PC is probably more hackable in terms of getting exploits and stuff, and that clearly was happening. And obviously, keyboard and mouse had a huge advantage in that game. I played primarily on PC when I used to play that game, and I felt like the control was night and day, honestly. Even though, I don't think gunplay is a huge part of that game, but I mean, when it push came to shove and you encountered, some hard skeleton bosses, or if you encountered, actual players out there on the open seas, it was much easier with keyboard and mouse, I thought, than controller. Am I missing any details about this, you guys? I don't know if there was more to say about this. I can't remember. But I think that's essentially it. I mean, what's cool too is that one thing really quick before we get the opinions of these guys is that the keyboard and mouse thing, if you use keyboard and mouse, you're forced to crossplay with PC. But if you don't, if you want to use controller, you can choose. Which I thought that was really, really cool. Because honestly, like, if you can get keyboard and mouse on console, that's like, the same thing as playing as PC except without the exploits, So what do you guys think about this? Did I miss anything? Is there any more to say? Like, what were your thoughts about this when you heard about it?
When they released the update video and they were talking about it, right, I was totally expecting it to be like, the developer, I forget what his name was, but I felt like he was going to just say, suck it up, right? Because I swear
Wait,
some people like...
Hold on a second. You mean the guy who announced it on the dev update video or whatever?
Yeah.
Joe Neat, I guess his name is, the executive producer of the game.
Yeah, because, Clownz and I will tweets on the Sea of Thieves, and we don't want crossplay, and you get these fanboys, I guess you could say, of the game. They're like, "Oh, crossplay is amazing, right?" And they're all PC guys, and like us console guys are just kind of just left in the mud. And I really was expecting them to just say, "Suck it up," or they're just gonna add aim assist or something to the game for controller guys, because there's no aim assist. Here with him, announcing that there's no, you can remove crossplay is a really nice move, especially with Arena, a strictly PvP thing coming out. It's going to be like a huge annoyance if there was crossplay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's sad that a multiplayer mode, like a PvP only arena mode, was the thing that had to push this over the edge with everyone asking for it for so long. I feel like the diehards on console, the people pushing the advertising on this game until recently, we won't get into the whole controversy about whether or not Microsoft is paying these streamers all of a sudden to make Sea of Thieves be one of the most highly streamed games on Twitch. I mean, I don't really want to get into that, but that is kind of fishy. But before that, I would say the people pushing this game's popularity were mostly console people. And, you don't want to piss them off by not giving this as an option. I mean, options are good. I mean, options, I can't think of a situation where options are really bad, because everyone's been clamoring for the option like 4K versus like 1080p 60 on these consoles, right? Everyone wants that option. When that option's not there, a lot of people bitch. That's a little harder of a thing to offer, I think, than the Sea of Thieves situation. I think the Sea of Thieves situation was probably a little bit more difficult a little bit easier than something like that. So why not just enable it? Why not just satisfy the people who are pushing the popularity of this game? Look how many people dropped off this game on console because of annoyances mostly with hacking and stuff. We got Saltiest Gaming in the YouTube chat saying the hacking is what he really couldn't deal with. Crossplay, not a big deal. You want to use your keyboard and mouse, go ahead and do that. But along with the crossplay came the easier ability to use PC exploits and such, and it was really getting out of hand, and a lot of people that were pushing the popularity of this game were just leaving. That's what I think the biggest deal is. And I think it took almost a whole year, essentially. Assassin, you opened this topic with saying that before day one people wanted an option, and now it's like a year later. The game came out in March of last year, so it's almost a whole year later we're finally getting the ability. I think it's just not too little too late, but I think it's a little too late.
Well, I think the biggest problem is that they haven't fixed the hacking. Sure, cutting it off is great, and they can't hack anymore on, if we turn off crossplay and we're on the consoles. But the fact is, they haven't fixed the hacking since day one. I was actually the first source that brought it up to Jez and Crap Gamer at the time. Through underground forums, I found the actual hack site and reported it to them that was selling these hacks. And since then, the hack has actually blown up, and there's 6 or 7 other modding communities now that have their own wall hacks, aim hacks, and glitches. They need to really ban these people, ban those MAC addresses, whatever they got to do to keep them come back on the server. Sure, they might change their MAC addresses, but you do it enough, it's going to be a pain in the ass for them to keep changing it.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, like, it's always like I feel like with the hacking situation in some of these games, especially with crossplay games where, PC people, a lot of PC people just want to have the upper hand against console counterparts. Like, I feel like you're kind of getting to something, Clownz. Like, there is just a, you catch up to them and then they find out something else, and then you catch up to them and then they find out something else, and then you know what I mean? But at least catching up to the hackers and stopping whatever situation, or putting in an option like this where their advantage is like not nullified but taken down a lot in its efficiency. because now they can't really dominate over console players because a lot of console players are just going to enable non-crossplay for sure. I mean, but I think, the longer you take to catch up to some of these things, the more in depth and the more exploits these people do find, and the harder it is for them to actually fix these things. So why not just enable this from the get-go and then, I don't know, maybe make them not want to hack as much? I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, what was that? My audio cut out on my headset.
No, I was saying, like, is catching up to this before now, would that have like taken down the hacking scene a little bit, or no? Do you think?
I think so. I think if Rare would have came out, guns blazing, admitted this happened, posted a whole big community thing on the forums instead of locking threads and closing those threads where people were exposing them initially, I think if Rare would have took a bigger stance in the beginning and was firm with Xbox and said, we need to turn off crossplay, we need to investigate how these guys are breaking our code, yeah, it would have made a huge difference. It would have stopped a lot of these second, third hand modding communities from going further or adding to the exploits, I think. It's kind of like in the same sense when the PS3 majorly got hacked with the custom firmware, Sony essentially put rootkits on the PS3 and started banning those PS3s. So, yeah, I mean, they need to take a hard stance, fast stance, and they need to expose it publicly.
Assassin, agree? Disagree?
Yeah, I mean, they need to go after these guys like tomorrow's ending, right? Like, just letting them get away with it while they say it's a small group of people. Every time they bring it up, I mean, there's still people doing it. Like, you remove one person, two more people could come by. It's like, one of those like hydras. Remove a head to come back. And disabling crossplay to, if they weren't going to, like now they're disabling it, but if they weren't going to do that in the future, disabling it just for them to attack all this junk would have been the smart way to do it, instead of pretending everything is sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's... I understand they want to downplay it, but it's not something to downplay when, I mean, obviously I can't say that I've seen everyone that... I haven't gotten everyone who plays this game's opinion who plays on Xbox, but I've seen a lot of opinions on Twitter, and it seems like all the diehards I know that play this, that I see on Twitter, they're all complaining about it. They all complained about it in some way, shape, or form. Why not address it sooner instead of addressing it in this video, like we were kind of alluding to here? I feel like that they... Like the sunshine and rainbows thing, I think is a good way to put it, is that they almost put it in as like, we heard you and guess what? Like almost like, I mean, that's not exactly how they said it, but almost like they're doing us a favor and they're adding in a new feature instead of like fixing a huge problem with the game, That was kind of aggravating, but, and then they have to slide in the keyboard and mouse support for Xbox. Like, I don't understand the point of that, because... Like, I almost think that's kind of a wasted opportunity, because, like, you still have to enable crossplay. So, I mean, what, you're going to have people that... How many people on Xbox, like, play with a group of PC people that, they feel like they're letting down or something like that? I don't think there's a huge, contingency of that, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, but it's an option,
Yeah, like, yeah. Yeah, I love how earlier I was just saying that options are great, and then I have to shit on it. You're right. You know what, Assassin, you got me. You got me.
There's one thing I want to talk about while we're on this topic, though, that I think is disgraceful. I think it's disgraceful that toxic streamers are getting keys to this game by whatever means, and then making it usually successful but still being toxic on the game. I think that's pathetic as a platform for Xbox, especially if Xbox is going to be inclusive and diverse. They need to put their foot down with these people and just ban them outright. Say, we're not going to tolerate that. Because, I mean, if you're in an Xbox party chat and you get toxic or anything, they're gonna con ban you or ban your account. So why don't they do it to these toxic streamers?
Oh yeah, and they brought up toxicity in the dev update, and right, and you see like Summit playing, right, and he like his group, like a few videos I've seen of him playing is toxic. Like I don't want to be anywhere. Like it's hard to watch that video, right, of someone playing Sea of Thieves at times because it's bad at parts, and they don't want toxicity, but like Clownz says, the streamers are being toxic.
Man, you know what? I could talk about this for like an hour or so because I honestly think that I honestly think that those guys are entertaining, but I get the toxic argument too. But I think this is what Rare wants for the popularity of this game. I don't know if they want to promote toxicity, but they want to promote like. They want to promote like groups of guys getting together and like camping on boats and then surprising, like hiding on someone else's pirate boat and then surprising them later on and like trolling them. I think that's part of the fun of what Sea of Thieves was intended to be in some way.
Salty ass in the chat, how would you define the toxic? Because you told us that something's pretty toxic, so can you define that for us?
Oh God, I don't remember his video, but it wasn't good. If I can find the video, I'll link it. But I know like it just was not like family friendly. Like it would probably be something you would hear in like the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 game chat type things, where you've seen those memes like these kids today would not survive in a Modern Warfare 2 game chat.
So you're saying that it's like, would you say that the verbal conversations were harassing, toxic, demeaning, ridicule, humiliating, those kind of things?
I mean, some of that probably, not all of it.
So some of
it wasn't like all racist and all that. It wasn't none of that.
Was anybody being put down?
Probably.
So there alone would be a violation of Xbox terms of service.
Yeah. Well, I mean, true, but the PC, I feel like the PC people can get away with a lot more. And you know what? Some of them are just abusing it. And a game like this kind of like lends you to be able to do something like that. So,
question. All right. So. Yeah. If Xbox and Rare is allowing limited toxicity to an extent, right? Can I go up in real life to these streamers and act that way back to them?
Say it again. If what?
If Xbox and Rare is allowing limited toxicity to an extent,
mm-hmm.
Can I go back in real life in person and act that way to these streamers in their faces at like E3 or PAX?
Go ahead, Assassin. Go ahead.
Well, it's not really based on topic, but we all know these streamers, right? They're putting on like a stupid persona, right? And they're putting on a little show so they can get that sub money and those donations, but they're probably nothing like that in real life.
Agreed.
Unfortunately,
you're absolutely right because you meet a lot of these guys at the cons, especially PAX conventions, because they go there, and they hang out in the Twitch booth, they hang out in the Mixer booth. They're there to live out their personas, but then you'll talk to them one-on-one, and they're completely different because that's what it is today. It's like keyboard warriors and keyboard. You can act differently behind the camera. That's the allure of a lot of streaming life. I mean, a lot of people just like to have a different. You see on the YouTube community too, that people make videos that, are totally different than what they are in real life because they know what sells and they want to, create stupid drama or whatever. It's the same thing. So, I mean, it's a fine line, in my opinion.
I guess, from my perspective, and maybe because I'm different than most of the population, I grew up one way and I see things as morally right or morally wrong. Like, there's no in between for me. There's no role playing. Like, I see right or wrong, like black and white. And you seen that when we went to PAX Inferno, when that enforcer kind of got rude with us. You and Dan had to like pull me away from that guy. So like, it just gets on my nerves that there's an in between, there's an acceptable. I just wish everything was like straight, like black or white. You know what I mean? Like this way or no way.
I know. I hear you. I hear you. It's just you know, it's just an accepted thing by, like, I think the majority, maybe not you, and you know the way you were brought up and everything, and I think it's just an accepted majority that, like, you know, people just have different personas online, which I don't like that necessarily. I think that I don't like phonies necessarily, but I mean, people, you know, people think they can act a certain way, you know, behind the comfort of their computer, and then, you know, because they know they won't be confronted for the most part, you know, they're not going to get confronted, but you got to watch out because there are select people that will confront you. So I mean, maybe Rare has to address that in a later update about this thing. Maybe they have to reach out to some of these streamers and say, hey, take it down a little bit because, you know, you are, you know, thanks for streaming the game. You are increasing the popularity for sure. But I mean, some of the things you say on your streams, maybe not necessarily everything you do, but some of the things you say and the attitudes you get, you know, make us look bad and make us look like we're a haven for that kind of thing, which is not good, obviously.
I would agree with that. Like, I think they need to police it a little bit more.
Yep. Yeah, and all this happened because, you know, all this craziness, I think, stems from the fact that, you know, not necessarily everyone's cheating on PC, but I think PC is just, for the entirety of this game, had a huge advantage on console. Whether it be, like, the increased frame rate, because I think the frame rate difference in this game makes a huge difference, and I think, you know, the control, even though, you know, it's not necessarily like a Twitch shooter or anything like that, but I think the control is just vastly superior on PC, so...
I mean, and don't get me wrong, I think we all want to see this game succeed,
absolutely,
and grow, because we love it. At the end of the day, we love this game. It's, you know, these were some thoughts that were just on my mind recently.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, glad you brought it up. I'm hitting buttons and nothing's typing on my keyboard for some reason. Oh, there we go. That was really weird. I thought I had totally lost my keyboard control, and if I did, then this podcast would have been us just talking about Sea of Thieves for the next hour. But anyway, we must move on because we got other topics, and we've been talking about this for a while. But if you have any other thoughts, leave it in the chat. I see Siberia posted just a late one right now. PC players are just hyper competitive for a relaxing game like Sea of Thieves. I mean, that's the beauty and the downfall of Sea of Thieves. Like, you can play it however you want, really. You can just, you know, coast from island to island. You can take in the beautiful landscapes and the HDR and the excellent execution of that. And there isn't like any story necessarily like pushing you to carry on in a certain direction. You can really do whatever you want as a pirate in that game, and that makes you also easy prey for the tryhards. It's a double-edged sword, but that's the one case, I guess, where options aren't bad, right, Assassin? Or aren't good, I should say. All right, next topic. Let's get into a shit show, metaphorically speaking, and probably literally speaking, if we base it on how last week's demo, quote unquote, went, which was absolutely a beta. I can't believe I call it a demo. So yeah, I wasn't around for this because I was on vacation, as many of you guys know, but we saw some nonsense last weekend on the Anthem I was just about to call it a beta again. It's a demo, the VIP demo. So man, I mean, what the hell happened with this thing? I know Assassin, you tried a little bit to get into this. What were your experiences with it? Because I saw a lot of people complaining about, you know, like infinite loading screens, like really bad lag and like hit detection. I saw people flat out not being able to get in with their tokens for some reason, their VIP tokens. Just a lot of craziness that I've seen with this thing. But what did you experience with it?
So I think just like everyone else, I experienced of not being able to get into the game because their servers were, I think, pretty garbage. It even affected like a bunch of other game servers. It was just a whole mess there. I experienced the infinite loading screen a lot. I was playing with a group of people. It was Legendary Yeti and some of his friends, And every time we get a mission, we're all like staring at the bottom right of the corner of the loading screen, because if you didn't get like the 3 triangles while it was loading, you were getting the infinite loading screen. So we're all like playing a game, like we can see the 3 triangles, because if you didn't see it, you had to back out of the game and load back in to actually get in. As for like the lag and stuff, like I didn't experience any like connection issues or bad hit detection. I thought all that was pretty spot on. But I've seen videos of like people falling through floors and like rubber banding, and like some of that was really bad. And I don't understand why they named it a demo and a beta.
Yeah, from what I heard, from what I heard on this, it was a pretty old build. I don't have the quote right in front of me, but they were deflecting big time after this. I mean, obviously they kind of had to, but I see. I mean, you just talked about it right now when you gave your assessment of the game, and I see some people in the chat, Born Distracted, specifically talking about it being more of a server issue. Now, they made it a point to deflect big time on this, and they said that it wasn't a server issue. Like, they came right out and said that there's a lot of misinformation going around. We had plenty of servers. There was an excess of servers. Now, how could that possibly be true? I don't get that at all. Like, what are you blaming it on? They tried to blame it on, they said they did a lot of playtesting, but they blamed it on the fact that there was more demand than they thought, and they right out of the gate, like, they had the servers, but because the initial demand was just so quick from everybody all at the same time, they said that was a big issue. They also thought they had alleviated the loading bug before releasing the demo, but because it was an old build, they actually hadn't. So I don't understand how it can't be a server thing when people just flat out were not getting in. Like, how do you not get in and it not be a server issue? You know what I mean? I just think that the deflecting doesn't seem genuine, and I'm not reassured at all. I mean, that's kind of where I wanted to go with this. Like, are we reassured? Are the fans reassured for this weekend demo that's going to happen, the open demo, which is happening starting tomorrow? Are we reassured that the problem is going to be solved? And with the deflecting I've seen from them, I'm going to go ahead and say no. I really don't think so.
I don't know. I have a little bit more faith, but I mean, I don't see the game like being updated in any way. Like, we've seen some betas and things, but I mean, I haven't been checking. So there could have been an update, but I mean, it's possible there could be some server issues like tomorrow, with everyone trying to get in. But I think the infinite loading screen, I think it will still happen, but I don't think it will happen as much, because on Friday when it first came out, the VIP demo, I got hit like every time I played, right? And then when I played Saturday or Sunday, like, it happened maybe once, like, out of both of the times I played, right? So I think they'll get that part fixed, at least.
I think that if this open beta comes out and there is that infinite loading beta demo issue, I can speak tonight. If there is that infinite loading issue, I think that it's going to be a huge problem, because at least with the VIP thing, people saw it on YouTube, people heard people talking about it on Twitter like we're doing, or on YouTube like we're doing right now, or on podcasts on other places, iTunes, whatever, like we're doing right now. It's different to experience it yourself, like with a lot of problems with games. There's a huge contingency of people out there that say, unless I play it, I can't trust reviewers, or I can't trust YouTubers. I need to actually experience it myself. And so with the open demo, I think they have another shot for sure. I don't think the damage is already done. But if there are crippling issues like that, like you can't get in, or the infinite loading screen, and it's widespread, I think big problem, big problem. And I think EA should have learned by now with, beta issues or demo issues contributing to low sales, like we've seen in the past with like Titanfall. So I mean, this better be really polished. I don't know. Clownz, are you looking to go back to this, or is this now ruined for you, or what's your feeling on this?
Well, you know what? Here's my thing. I think the whole thing is a ripoff of Destiny. Like the tower was like where you stand with your suit in this game. There's like a little town or whatever. I just didn't like it from the beginning. I didn't like the flying aspect. I'm not a big fan of flying around in mech suits. I think that's really boring. I'd rather have like, hover skateboards than flying in a damn mech suit. So yeah, so the issues with the game never even bothered me because I don't think I had any intention of going into it wanting this game. And to be fair to the game and the devs, when I tried to get into the beta, I had no issues at all with Pred and Assassin. Like I got right in, no issues, no lagging. I did almost fall asleep when I hit a wall, but that's on me, not the game.
Yeah, I think the Destiny comparisons are going to come, even though I think there's a lot of things that they do to try to separate itself. I mean, obviously it's in the same genre, and I think, it's fair for right now to compare it to Destiny, but at the same time, like, EA needs to work hard to break itself from that stigma. You know what I mean?
Well,
it needs to create something better.
To salt these things in the chat, for me, it feels like Destiny because the area where you get your suit feels like the tower to me. Partying up with people feels like a Destiny party to me. Even like the graphical scenery, like it looked like a Vex clone, and the one that me and Assassin played, like there's cubic blocks. It looked exactly like a Vex clone to me. The enemies may be a little bit different, but the way they spawn in reminds me of Destiny enemies. And the missions remind me of like strikes and raids. And to me, it's like, for me, it feels like copy and paste, except with a mech suit and that you could fly. If Destiny had mech suits and they could fly, it'd be almost the same thing from my perspective.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. I think it's going to be hard for EA to break themselves away from that kind of comparison, and they need to do something to assure people and to advertise this to make it seem like it's better than Destiny, because as good as Destiny's shooting mechanics are, I think some of the best like I've ever played. I think Bungie just does that really well. I think that Destiny is just well received by the hardcore, but by the casual, it didn't take off like they wanted it to, and that's obvious. Bungie obviously knows that's true because they broke their partnership with Activision. They think it's being managed improperly for sure. So I think that EA needs to somehow mend something that may not be their fault. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily their fault because they made a game that has a lot of differences in it, but at the same time, all these looter shooters or whatever you want to call them are just gonna draw that Destiny comparison, and people are just gonna be looking for the similarities. It's happening in a lot of games. But Assassin, did you feel like it was, from what you played, did you feel like it was a lot like Destiny as well, or?
Well, see, like trying to compare it to like the Division or like Destiny, like I feel like Anthem doesn't do like, because the Division and Destiny do like certain things really well and some things really bad. And I feel like Anthem is just behind that. Like Anthem doesn't do anything, in my opinion, very well, right? The shooting's okay, right? It feels like Mass Effect, whatever. The soldier or whatever, the javelins are all right, right? The whole environment's all right. The whole like loot, right? Just because like in Destiny or Division, like you see something like, I've been playing Division a lot, so like a gold item on the ground or an exotic, like you see that huge beam of light in the air, or in Destiny you see like that yellow or purple like engram like laying on the ground, and here you see like a little triangle, and you're like, it's like whatever, and then you go to the end of the mission and you have like all these rewards. It's not as satisfying like you get in like Destiny or Division, like, oh, you got a bunch of loot. It just feels like you're going through missions, right? And then just getting mission rewards, not having loot fly out of like someone, whatever the enemy is like face, right? The big bosses, one of the mission, like you had to face like 3 of these big guys, right? And that experience I thought was just kind of meh. Like a lot of the AoE attacks, like kept on going through walls, and you get like stun locked, and it was just, and like they had a fire attack, so you couldn't fly because you were overheated. Like that boss fight was not fun whatsoever. I try to avoid that, but I mean that's the last mission that you can play, and it's where you get the most loot. Same thing with the stronghold. I believe it was this big, like, I forget what it was, so don't blame me. But like when we were playing on hard, we just kind of sat on top of a mountain, and if we got hit, we just fell back. And then the health system, I just thought was just kind of terrible. Like you had to kill an enemy to get like a health whatever thing, which is fine. But
Wait, you want it to automatically regen? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, there's no auto health or like health like abilities, at least what I've seen. So you have to like go and almost like pretty much like almost kill yourself for these items, which I mean it's fine, but like there's no health ability to get some health. So like you're kind of
for now,
like,
for now.
Yeah, for now. But like we were all sitting on top of like this mountain with like no health because there were so many enemies. You go down, you're dead, right? So I don't know. I mean, I did like I am being really negative. I did enjoy what I played, but I feel like compared to Division or Destiny, it is behind.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear what you're saying on that. And from the videos I've been watching, I didn't get to play it because I was on vacation, like I said. But I'll definitely be playing it this weekend, 100%. But I feel like, yeah, I agree. I think it is definitely behind those games. And I think with Division 2 coming up as well, I think, like I've been saying this whole topic, EA is just got to push some way to make this thing different, make this thing something that you buy alongside Destiny, because Destiny is already looking very good. Salty says in the chat, that he thinks that'll be added and it's a demo in their builds. I don't think that was conveyed well enough, man. Honestly, like Indie Gamer says above you in the YouTube chat says I think they just should have called it beta and saved themselves a lot of heat. You know, he thinks it'll be okay by release, but in the issues we ironed out, and it's an older build. I think they should have said, you know, how many betas do you see these days where the beta comes in, it's like, you know, it's very transparent that it's an early build. Like maybe it has those characters in the corner that say like, you know, build version pre-alpha or whatever. Remember Battlefield 3 back on the 360 when we got that beta, or like Gears of War? Was it Gears 4 or 3 when we got that beta like a year in advance, or like Halo 5? Yeah. Those betas like did so well with being so transparent. And obviously this thing is so much closer to release. You just have to think that it's close to, you know, release candidate, you know, even though the demo build could have been like months ago, which is what they're saying. I think they replied to a couple of Reddit posts, and I think they also you know, posted a few things on social media and on their blog and stuff. But you know, being so close, people think, you know, that it's just gonna be like that when the game comes out. It's you got to be so transparent on these things, I feel. But Salty thinks the Anthem will double the sales of Division. I don't know if I agree with that, man. I think Division looks really good.
With EA's name tied to it and the hate, unnecessary hate, I think EA gets. I don't think I hope it does well, right? But I don't think it's going to be like the best selling game for like these few months, right? I think Ubisoft might pull it away, but because it is Ubisoft, some reason people love Ubisoft. Yeah, but
I mean, now granted, Division 2 did have a predecessor that was pretty poorly received overall. I mean, towards the end it was good, but you know, if you just take an average of how that game was received, it wasn't received well. But and Anthem has been touted as, you know, the huge big player, the new refreshing take on a looter shooter, and like it does have that going for it. But I think the EA name is just going to take it down. I think, you know, it may sell well at the beginning, but I don't think like once people, you know, start playing it, I think it's going to tail off dramatically. But all right, let's move on. We got a few other topics.
Go ahead. I want to talk about. I don't know if you guys saw the microtransaction store leaked photo But I've seen all these people like complain about it, right? That so they're thinking that 100 what crystals or whatever equals like $1, right? So like the bigger items would be $20. Everyone's complaining like EA's ruining everything. Take a look at Epic, Activision, and Ubisoft. Their microtransactions are ridiculous. At least EA is allowing you to play the game without spending money for these microtransactions. I like just to point that out there.
Yeah, man. Microtransactions. I mean, man, does that define a generation or what? Holy shit.
I love microtransactions. Don't ever take them away.
Oh, man. Sobsky says he thinks Anthem will be a steady seller for a while. May not be best straight away because people will wait and see if it's good. See, a lot of people are just divided on this. I think a lot of people think that are thinking really differently on how this thing's going to go. And I think that bodes poorly for EA. I think EA wants like 90% of the people to think that this is the next best thing, just like people did with Destiny and just like people did with Division. Because remember, the Division beta outperformed everything, broke tons of records on downloads, playtime, and right out of the gate, Division did extremely well. But if you take the average, obviously Division, didn't maintain the hype, and the end game was poor and blah blah blah. But hopefully, hopefully that Anthem overcomes that. Shanzu says it's not loot boxes and it's not pay to win, so I'm okay with it. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like what I've been saying this whole time when people complain about, loot boxes that are just like cosmetics. There've been some games where it influences gameplay. I mean, Battlefront 2 at the beginning was kind of suspect, but yeah, hopefully there's just ways to earn this stuff in game. I mean, if you have to put in like 40 hours to earn these things at the same price as like $20, fine, whatever. But I don't know. Some people don't have the money, man. Some people don't have that money. Okay, let's move on. Clownz, we're going to give you the floor right now because I know you've been, you wanted to talk about this on the podcast. I think you've been checking this out. Genesis Alpha 1. I checked this out a little bit. This game looks really interesting. The gunplay looks a little suspect, but it's a little bit of like, it's a little bit of No Man's Sky mixed with The Sims. You got to manage your base in space, but you can kind of add on units at your own will and kind of arrange them the way you want, and it's kind of got an interesting respawn aspect, I think. So tell us about this one, Clownz.
Yeah, first off, we did receive a review code for Genesis Alpha 1, so I want to disclose that. Mm-hmm. Basically, this game is kind of like what you described. It is kind of like a first-person, very in-depth shipbuilding experience, and your ship is kind of like a floating command center. It just, it's just sitting there, and the rest of it, it's so involved, man. It's really hard to describe verbally, but you got the shipbuilding experience. You got a whole bunch of things that you need to do on the ship, like build biodomes. You got to get plants. You got to extract minerals. You got laser beams. The first person aspect in this game, like the gunplay that you mentioned, is kind of, it's not what we're used to. Let's just say that. It's really not what we're used to at all. And it just becomes so overly complicated, even the tutorial aspect of the game, because you go out to these planets to get minerals on your little pod that you fly out on. And a lot of times when you come back, or even when you beam stuff up, you get alien life forms on the ship. And once you get those alien life forms, it's really hard to get rid of them because there's creatures that lay eggs all over in the under corridors. And then eventually you think you got them all, but then next thing you know, your whole ship's overrun and your clones are dying left and right. You're running out of resources trying to fight these things. And then all of a sudden, you're sealed in your room, whatever room you get in when this happens, and you're sealed. I got stuck in my hangar, couldn't do anything, had no minerals to fly out. All my clones were dead. The alarms are going off. I was losing air, and then I died. So it's very complicated. At the same time, I'm addicted to the game. I find it very fun just because I want to challenge myself and beat these different aliens and creatures that come on board. I like the cloning aspect. You can make humans. You can pick up alien DNA after you kill a whole bunch of them. So, I mean, there's a lot of fun to the building aspect of the game, if you love simulation, if you love builders, and you love challenges, this is a game for you. But if you don't like mediocre graphics, mediocre gunplay, or something overly challenged, you're definitely not going to want to pick up this game at all.
Yeah, I was watching a few videos and streams of it when you mentioned, you know, that we had received a review code and you wanted to talk about it on the podcast, and obviously we're thankful for that. And I think this game is worthy of checking out if, like what Clownz said, you know, if you're fond of simulation games, or if you're fond of kind of games like No Man's Sky. That I think this game kind of takes it to a little bit of a further level than No Man's Sky too, because of that cloning aspect and because of the, you know, the picking up of the DNA and stuff and how that can affect your characters and whatnot. I think there's a lot. I think you hit it right in the head with there's a lot of complexity. And I think the biggest downfall of this one for a lot of people is probably going to be that gunplay. When I saw that gunplay, I was watching the trailer, and I saw, you know, all the aspects of building up the ship and stuff, and I'm like, wow, this is like The Sims in space. This is really cool. And then I saw them harvesting on the planet, and you know, there's like 300 planets or something you can go to, and you know, all of them kind of feature different kind of life forms and different resources and stuff like that. I thought that was so cool. And then I saw him finally shoot enemies, and I'm just like, whoa, man, that gunplay needs a little bit of a buff. Like, it felt like I was just pea shooting, or I mean, I wasn't playing, but it felt like when I was watching, it was just pea shooting. But
yeah, and you know, there's another aspect to that too, Inferno, is that even the tutorial is overly complex, and you're going to bring up the screen on your pad, your PDA, and it's going to tell you to do like certain things, but you got to figure out where you're going. Especially when you start out the game, you have no clue where the hell you are on the ship, which is difficult. You got to hit the select screen to see where your little guy is, and then once you figure it out, it gets a little bit easier. But to start off, it's, I mean, for complexity, 10 out of 10 on the, you know, the complex aspect. The fun level, if you like simulation games, it's probably going to be like a 6 out of 10 for you if you're really focused on that simulation. But if you focus on the game as a whole, maybe a 5 out of 10. But this game really comes down to your personality.
yeah, Sobsky in the YouTube chat, Clownz, wants to know what other game would you compare the gunplay to? Do you have like a comparison game that you think you'd put at the same level of gunplay, or?
You know, when I actually was holding the gun, and this is just my perspective, Sobsky, because, you know, everybody has different interpretations, I would say that it's probably a really bad Borderlands gunplay, and the bullets don't always seem to hit where you want them to hit.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, it does have kind of like a Borderlands, kind of like an RPG-esque shooter aspect, because, you know, when you do damage, like the numbers fly off the character. So, I mean, we've seen that in a bunch of games, but Borderlands, I think, is one of the most famous for it. But I think the gunplay is, yeah, it's like an imprecise kind of Borderlands. It's kind of like oh man, there was a game that came out kind of recently. I didn't pick it up because I watched shout out to Randall Thor 19. I watched his video review of it. I can't remember the game off the top of my head, but it was a game that he definitely said was he knocked the gunplay big time on it. It felt like he wasn't even shooting anything. Man, what game was that? Maybe I'll remember later in the podcast, but I think of it as kind of like Doom, but think as if your weapons did maybe like a quarter of the damage and there was no kickback on the enemies. Like, I feel like that's the kind of way it feels when you're looking down the sights and stuff. But yeah, Indie Game is right in the chat, and I think Clownz agrees that if you were to, you know, if you were into the depth and the simulation aspects, it's definitely a buy for you, but you're going to have to get over bad shooting mechanics.
I haven't been able to see if there is split screen co-op. I haven't had anybody to play with. I don't think there is, but you know, I'll look into that for you.
Mm. Yeah, Ouchie asked if there was local split screen co-op. Yeah, dude, can you imagine if how many games have done online split screen co-op? I can't think of any off the top of my head other than A Way Out, which wasn't a shooter, but Was that game that came out recently that you like escape from jail? You played as like two brothers or whatever. But yeah, split screen co-op. We're not sure about that, but all right. So there's Clownz' little mini review. Expect a little bit more probably on that. Maybe on maybe on our website 4GwQPodcast.com, or maybe again on the podcast. But for now, we're done with that. Let's get into one of the big topics of this week, one that I'm very happy to talk about. Kingdom Hearts finally came out, and I've got it. I got the disc version. I'm trying to look for it. Yeah, I know, right? Let me put my screen up right now. Got that disc version. It's very rare that I get a disc-based game, so when I do, I like to show it off. And I am also doing that because I know my brother's watching the podcast, and he wanted me to game share this with him. So,
wow,
right in your face, Chisel. But yeah, grabbed the game on launch day. Came out on the 29th, so that was 2 days ago. Unfortunately, yesterday I didn't have a lot of time at all to put into it, but when it did come out, I played for probably like 3 hours, and I gotta be honest, man, I think it's probably the best one I've played, and I think it's extremely approachable, even for people who haven't gotten into the the nitty gritty of the Kingdom Hearts story. Because the Kingdom Hearts story, you could try to summarize that, and it would take you like 45 minutes. It's really an in-depth story. There's like over 10 games in the series. People just think it's Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and 3, and then even people who play console games, like home console, they think it's just like 6 or so games. But then there was the 3DS ones, and there's just the regular DS ones and the Game Boy Advance ones, and it went all over the place. So if you want to get the full story, it's going to take you a while. You're going to have to like get a notebook out and start drawing like line graphs and stuff like this, because it really is complex. But don't let that discourage you from getting this, because honestly, I hadn't played a Kingdom Hearts game in years, and I really am enjoying this one so far. I think I saw kind of like a little mini review from Supersonic Station. I watched a couple of his gameplay videos, and I saw him tweet on Twitter, and he's been playing the hell out of this game. And he said that, it's really, it's fun and lively and really approachable. And it's refreshing to have a game like that. And I agree. I mean, I know you guys, I don't think you guys have gotten it, but I think you guys are really interested in it now.
I mean, I haven't seen really much on it, other than, the few trailers and stuff, so I don't really know what to expect, because, it just seems like one of those games where if you watch it, right, you could just ruin it. Plus it being like the third or whatever, and you said there's all these other games, like, I feel like, I'm missing out. Plus, you said it was like a JRPG, and that's not my type, or just an RPG or whatever, and that's not my type of game. I've played other RPGs and I liked them, but I also hate a bunch of RPGs. So, like, I haven't really seen much to, be like, oh my god, this is great, or terrible.
Yeah, but I think this is an RPG you can get into without being too invested into RPGs. Like I thought they took the RPG elements of Final Fantasy. This is made by Square Enix, by the way, for people who didn't know that. And Square Enix, of course, famous for Final Fantasy. And I think they took a lot of the Final Fantasy aspects and, for lack of a better term, actionified them. So I don't think you necessarily need to be like too entrenched in the Japanese RPG game style in order to play this. So I think Assassin, honestly, like, I would recommend you Redbox this, because I think you will be into it, because I think, even though the story before this game is pretty convoluted, I think you can jump into this without knowing the story too much and really have a good time. I think the fighting is really, really refreshingly, simple but detailed as well, because there's a lot of like combo moves you can do with Donald and Goofy and with the other characters that kind of join up with you, Hercules and stuff like that. Not to spoil, but I think you'll like it, man. I think you will. I know, Clownz, you were planning on Redboxing it.
Yeah, and shout out to Maverick, who I game share with on the PlayStation. He actually bought the whole package, so I'm gonna go ahead and give it a try.
Oh man, he bought it digitally?
Yeah, he bought it digitally.
Wow, huh?
Yeah.
What a guy. Wow, yeah, so you're going to have access to a lot of the PlayStation released ones. So if you want to, you can start from the first one, but honestly, like, I'd probably just start with this one. This one looks great, like the graphics are incredible. The frame rate on X at least is very good. And if you think it's a little unstable, you can actually, even on PlayStation, you can drop it down to 1080p 60 and it stays there pretty consistently. Sobsky says in the YouTube chat, there are YouTube videos explaining the story leading up to it. I reckon I'll do that and just play Kingdom Hearts 3. Yeah, be ready. I mean, go pop some popcorn and get ready for a full-on movie, because a lot of those videos are like 45, 50 minutes long. It's like ridiculous how long it takes to explain this thing. And then some of the
fans are so like passionate about it too, Inferno.
Oh my god, yeah. The fans are just like, the fans on this game are, they can tell you the story front to back, and with the complexity of it, after you watch those videos, you'll just have a new respect for people that are fans of this game, because if you can follow a story like this over 11 games, I mean, it gets so complex that there's a point in time in the story where there are two people with the same name and one's good and one's bad with the same exact name. So talk about confusing. Yeah, I mean, I think this one does a good job of just like throwing you in, and you don't really necessarily have to know what's truly going on. You're just, like helping out some of these Disney characters or whatever do their thing and save the planets and stuff. It's very superficial. It's not like you have to, read a book or like anything like that. There's no like grimoire cards or anything like that. That's crazy. I mean, you just can get in and appreciate this on a topical level. And I think that's why it's doing so well too. I mean, 88 Metascore, that's pretty good. I didn't expect it to be much higher than 90, just because, I don't think it's necessarily something for everyone. I think that a lot of the hardcore are probably just going to avoid this, but I think if you're looking for something refreshing and you're looking for kind of like an action game that has a few RPG elements, I think you should definitely think about picking this up. So Assassin, you're saying you don't want me to buy this for you then?
I mean, I didn't say that, but I'm just saying I haven't seen much to, forum. It's the worst game ever made, or it's the bee's knees, as some people say.
I say that.
No, I'm not saying you said that.
No, I do. No, I do. I say that every once in a while. I like that. I like that phrase. Honestly, I tell my girlfriend all the time it's the bee's knees. It's like something
I don't understand why people say that. Of course it's not bee's knees. It's Kingdom Hearts 3. I don't know. I'm that whole thing goes right over my head.
Oh. All right. Anyway, well, let us know in the comments, or hit us up on Twitter and let us know if you are into Kingdom Hearts 3, if it's living up to your expectations, because this was a long time in the making. I think this game was supposed to come out like 2 years ago at least. Indie Gamer in the YouTube chat says the Mutts Nuts. See, a lot of people don't say the Mutts Nuts. I was trying to explain that to somebody fairly recently, and people are think that I lie about that, but that is a thing.
Never heard that.
You've never heard that? You've never heard the Mutts Nuts? UK Dazzer says the dog's bollocks. No one says that. That's a made up like UK thing. You haven't heard the Mutts Nuts, Assassin?
No.
Really? Well, I was just gonna say you don't have any mutts with nuts, but you do, right? You have one boy dog, right?
Yeah.
The cat sack. I don't think that's one either, Sovsky. I think that's made up. All right, let's get into this this next topic. This is a pretty big deal. We've talked about this in the past, just generally about the Epic's Game Store stealing games away. Most recently, before this, The Division 2 got stolen away from Steam, and it's going to be on the Epic's Game Store. And now Metro Exodus, just about 2 weeks from release, stolen from Steam. And a lot of people are pissed because they had pre-ordered the game through Steam, had already paid their money. Now, I don't know, in fairness, I don't know how Steam charges people for pre-orders, but nonetheless, people had already pre-ordered it on Steam and had a listing and everything, and people are really excited for this game. I mean, this game is being considered, you know, one of the best looking games of all time by a lot of people. I know it's not released yet, but you know, it was definitely, when it comes to console gaming, when it's been shown at cons and it's been shown during the E3 press conferences, especially during Microsoft's, it has been, you know, touted as one of the best looking games ever. I mean, it looks gorgeous. You know, the Metro games are really sleeper hits in first person shooting, and you know, obviously this is poised to do pretty well, I think, this game. And now go figure that 2 weeks to go and this thing's been stolen. So Sobsky says, by the way, let me just point this out, he says if you've pre-ordered it will be honored. I didn't see that. If you can link me to that, send me a link on Twitter. Don't send me the link in the YouTube chat because it'll probably get blocked, but send me a link to that because I did not see that. And you know, to my understanding, Steam is not getting it for like another year. I think it's a year exclusivity, but man, I mean, what did you guys think when you saw this? I mean, this is pretty big news. Another big game being stolen from Steam, and then Steam had to respond to this, you know, officially, because now it's getting to be a problem. You know, with a couple games it was just cute, and now, you know, the Juggernaut had to respond, and you know, they weren't too happy about it. But what did you guys think when you saw this?
I think that the decision to just put it to Epic and remove it from Steam was a terrible decision. Because I mean, 2 weeks before, everyone really wanted pre-ordered it, right? And now you're just like, yeah, we don't like you, Steam. Just we want more money, right? Because Epic gives you more money for, you know, purchases, and it was kind of just a middle finger to everyone right on Steam that pre-ordered it. Like, that would be just as bad as like Kingdom Hearts 3, right? It came to the Xbox and PlayStation. We're like, oh no, we're just going to PlayStation 2 weeks before. You know, it's stupid, and practices like that should not happen.
Yeah, I agree. Especially this soon. Like, if you announce the game, you say it's going to Epic, fine, whatever. But, you know, you're just making Steam look bad, and not even necessarily for a good reason. With the Metro games, there were 2 Metro games that already came out on Steam and did well on Steam. Like, there's really no ill will towards Steam. There shouldn't be. Steam helped the Metro series get popularity. You know what I mean? It's not, Metro wouldn't be where it is today if it was just a console game. The fact that it exists on PC and existed through Steam got them, you know, player base, got them money, got them publicity, and now, you know, they just shove it in the face over presumably what you just said, Assassin, the profit distribution, you know, a couple of weeks before. That's bullshit. I agree. Indie Gamer says Epic must be offering them the deal. Yeah, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, and maybe a month ago at this point, but I think when we had Tim Dog on, we were talking about Epic's Game Store offering, I think the split is like 88% to the games publisher or dev, and then 12% to Epic. Whereas with Steam, the usual distribution is somewhere like 75-25 or 70-30 or something like that. So obviously the Epic's Game Store takes less of the pie, and that's attractive to a lot of people, but it shouldn't be the situation where it just gets pulled like 2 weeks beforehand. That's ridiculous. Sobsky says he doesn't see it to be an issue because the game's going to be $10 cheaper on Epic's Game Store. So what do you guys think about that? That's an interesting thought.
Even if that's the case, after speaking to Al and a few other people on Twitter, I'm not comfortable with the Epic Game Store just because Tencent owns a 40% stake. And that's something that you have to really think about, that a Chinese entity such as Tencent, a powerhouse, owns that much of a stake in Epic. And I just find that kind of shady and suspicious. Maybe my suspicions have no bearing, but after some of the people I've talked to, I'm really cautious.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is. How can a company like Epic, I know I'm all over the place with this, but just hear me out on it. How can a company like this drastically undercut a company like Steam in terms of profit sharing. Like, obviously Steam was one of the only games in town. It's really difficult to beat one of the only games in town, right? I mean, we can say this about GameStop too. Like, GameStop in the US was one of the only games in town. And then, you know, Best Buy started being competitive with selling games. Amazon was really competitive, obviously. But when it, you know, when push came to shove and Amazon and Best Buy started offering 20% off of new titles, GameStop really got hit hard on that. And when GameStop started doing, you know, some really aggressive, non-consumer friendly practices, like with low trade-in values but high used game sale prices, you know, they got hit hard for that. But Steam, for all intents and purposes, I don't think they've changed their profit sharing too heavily, but you know, it just sucks for them to get hit so hard by a company that, you know, they essentially helped become popular, you know, with Metro becoming, you know, not a big name but a sleeper hit amongst first person shooters, and now they have to, you know, they have to make up for losing a big title like this. It just is crazy. And you're right, Clownz. Like, I don't necessarily have the suspicions you do, but I do have the suspicion that they can undercut them by that much on the profit sharing, you know?
Yeah, I think it's a shame that Metro did this kind of move, even if it's financially rewarding for them and Epic Games Store in the long run. If I was Steam at this point, I would just be like, okay, Metro, I know you'd make us a ton of money, but I'm just going to have to cut you off from Steam. We still have a larger install base, so we'll just focus on other titles.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if they keep on doing that to other games, like, let's just say if EA came out, like, if I know they have Origin or whatever, but like if they would decide to just be like, no, we're going to whatever, right? I you know, having like what's the word I'm looking for here? Just an attitude of just like, yeah, we don't need you, we're big. Like, you're just gonna lose people. Like, not right away, but you know, if you keep on doing that over and over, you're just gonna push people away, and then soon Steam, like if they go down that road, could be just a MySpace, right? No one cares about MySpace these days.
Nice reference. Very good. Very good.
So, I mean,
it's, yeah, and you know what? This is too big of a title for them to shun away. Like, I understand that, you know, they're trying to work with some of the AAAs. Like, if you do a certain amount of sales, you get a higher percentage of the profit sharing on Steam. Okay, that's all well and good, but even those higher percentages are lower than what Epic starts at. And so that's essentially what you're saying, Assassin. Like, that's essentially Steam saying, oh, we're too big to lower, you know, I mean, you have to go with us, we're the head honcho. But then they finally respond to this. Like, they, you know, even with the Division thing, they were kind of quiet about it. You know, they weren't necessarily directly responding to the fact that a few of their big games are being taken by Epic Games Store. But now, you know, I don't know why, but I guess Metro, you know, was the final straw, you know, in this decision to finally make a response, because they said, we think the decision to remove the game is unfair to Steam customers. We apologize to Steam customers that were expecting it to be available for sale through the January 15th release date, but were only recently informed of the decision and given limited time to let everyone know. So, I mean, they're deflecting, which they rightfully should, but I don't know. They've got to do something quick, because, you know, they're not on, I mean, they're obviously still on top of the tower, but they're not untouchable now. Would you agree?
Yeah.
I think so. I think they're definitely not untouchable. Now, Sobsky did send me a direct message where digitaltrends.com, it says Steam users aren't, let me see, as all these ads pop up and stuff, Steam users aren't reacting well to Epic's Metro Exodus exclusivity deal. And I guess, let me see. Yeah, so, and did you hear about this? That I did read this, but I had forgotten. Thanks for Sobsky for sending this over. That people are now going back to Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light. They're going back to those games and giving it negative reviews because of this. You know what I mean? Even
Yeah, see that's stupid because you can. I mean, the game is like super old by now, but like potential like buyers who see this Metro game coming out will go back and be like, oh, the game is terrible. Like, why would I buy this next game or like check it out or spend my money? I mean, you could probably get the game in like a sale for like probably $1 these days now, but I mean that's just terrible. I don't get people like that. Because I think even I think it was Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider or something. Like people review bombing or something. I know there was something with one game that happened like a few months ago that people were just bombing it for no reason.
Yeah. Yep. Bad, and you don't want to piss off, like we were talking about earlier, the keyboard warriors. They'll come out with no recourse and just trash your game. I mean, look what happens on Yelp. Even like South Park made an episode about that, where people will just go on Yelp and for any reason will just shit on your restaurant or whatever, your hotel, and there goes that. Like, your reputation's ruined. There are companies now that make their money literally on just salvaging improper reviews. Like, if you have that's what they do. They literally get improper reviews off of your record, and that's how they make money. Like, that's how bad it's gotten, which is pathetic, in my opinion.
No.
All right, I think this is going to be the last topic in the interest of time. We were going to talk about that senior animator that just got hired to Sony, but we'll leave that for next week because we don't really know much about what they're really making, but we'll get to that another time. Last topic of the evening, which I think is kind of a big deal. I know Clownz probably shed a little bit of a tear, but maybe not. We'll see. The Wii Shop is officially over. Now,
Assassin.
Now, so Assassin in the DM, when we were talking about this, I think I had already assumed that this had happened, right? I mean, you didn't even know that it was still a thing.
The like online service, like for Mario Kart, like Clownz wanted to play Mario Kart on the Wii, and I just assumed all stuff like that is gone. I know, for a while I thought the Wii Shop was closed because the Wii's super old, but hearing this like news it's closing, like it's sad. Like, I mean, I got like all the games that I wanted out of there, like Super Mario 64 and Mario Party and Mario Kart and stuff like that. But it's just sad that it has to close. And this is a great opportunity, Nintendo, to put something on the Switch. I'm saying. So
it's crazy. It's crazy because obviously digital game shopping happened before December of 2006 when the Wii Shop opened. But I think the Wii Shop and I think the Wii Shop and the resurgence, or not resurgence, but like the how do I say this? The uprising maybe of retro gaming on the Wii. I think that really had a huge impact on how people play retro games. Like that, I think that really revitalized the retro gaming scene because up until that time, there was retro gaming, it was getting a little bit unpopular. People still had these older consoles and were playing their older games, but to be where it's at now, I don't think it really would have gotten there if it wasn't for something like the Wii Shop because, that enabled the virtual console. People were enjoying buying those games, even though some of them were pretty overpriced. And I agree with Sobsky, they should have done a 90% off sale for the last 24 hours. Just to get people to buy stuff. I think that the Wii Shop was a very important thing in getting the retro scene back in action. And, obviously it was time for it to end because the Wii is super old. Like you said, not a lot of people play it. And the thing's probably just collecting dust in a lot of people's closets or whatever. But it's crazy to think that this shop existed for like almost 13 years, or 12 years actually, a little over 12 years. And it was a huge deal, even though some people tried to downplay it because it was on the Wii and the Wii had bad graphics and you're just buying old games. But look what people are doing now. People are buying old games, and a lot of that's because of the Wii Shop, I think.
know.
Clownz, thoughts on this? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, this is an opportunity for Nintendo to kind of like make it right and bring their eShop and virtual consoles all over to the Switch, which they probably are going to take forever to do and make you wait 10 years. So everybody's going to hack it first and get everything on there before they can do it. But it is kind of sad in a sense because the Wiis are still out there. People still have them. People use them for GameCube because a lot of the original Wiis can actually load GameCube games.
good
And
point.
I mean, the aftermarket scene for that is huge right now. I go into retro shops all the time over here, and the original Wiis are selling for a lot of money, 75 to up to $200 at some places. So there's a lost opportunity for Nintendo, and a huge opportunity for hackers to once again take advantage of this missed point by Nintendo.
Yeah, it's really amazing with how people reacted. Look how people reacted to this thing. Like, the announcement of the closure of the Wii Shop happened in September of 2017. And then, they cut it off so you couldn't add money. Like, I can't remember when that was. Let me see if I think I might have written it down. Yeah, so you couldn't purchase Wii points in March of 2018 is when they officially made it so you couldn't purchase Wii points. But if you had a stash, you could spend them up until yesterday. And honestly, for this to have existed for 13 years and to be on a system that, other than what Clownz said about playing GameCube games and stuff, other than that, people just think is just away in a closet, or like you find them at like Goodwill or Savers or whatever. For people to react this way, it must have been something big. You know what I mean? They wouldn't be reacting this way if it wasn't something big. And the reason it is because the Switch doesn't have something like this. It's such an opportunity for Nintendo to be like, we closed the Wii Shop, but now that we've done that, we're gonna go ahead and open a virtual console on the Wii. I know they're not gonna do that because they want to sell their online subscription, but it'd be cool if maybe they brought a lot of the games from the Wii Shop to that online subscription in one big batch. I know they've been trickling games in here and there, but it'd be nice to see like a big influx now of some of those games. But who knows? Yeah, so Indie Gamer agrees with you guys. Says another opportunity to bring classics to the Switch. Nintendo's gonna miss those. I mean, I don't know why they're not, man. I think they would have done way better with just a virtual console instead of what they're doing now. But let me see. Anything else in the YouTube chat? Subsky says Nintendo will port all the Wii games to the Switch for $60. I don't know about that. Wii Party Deluxe. Nah, they could use another game like that. They had that. What was the one that came? Oh, 1-2 Switch. That thing was awful.
Oh.
Assassin, I know.
Melt a cow.
Assassin, I know you want to. When you get your Switch in the next month or so, you definitely want to go ahead and grab 1-2 Switch, right?
No, that's one game that's not on my list.
Oh man, yeah, that game was a disaster. They really need to go back to their roots. They should do like a Wii Sports, but like a souped up version. Have like 12 or 13 sports in there, and just make it like amazing. Make it absolutely amazing. Let me see. Let's go out on this. I wrote this down as kind of like a subtopic of this. Is this like an argument for people that say that physical is better? Like, is this fodder to the fuel? The argument for people who say physical is better, right? They say, oh, well, if I have it physically, it'll never go away, but digital stores can close and I'm going to lose it. So, like, I got an email today saying the Ultraviolet store is closing. Ultraviolet, if you guys don't know, yeah, you know what that is, right, Assassin? It's that digital movie thing, kind of like Movies Anywhere, or or like iTunes or whatever. You redeem your codes you get from buying physical versions. You redeem it, and you have the digital version on Ultraviolet, and that store's closing. So they sent out an email saying it's closing, so you have like 6 more months to use your stuff, essentially. So I guess that's the argument, right, for physical over digital. Is this kind of like fuel to the fuel to that argument, or did you guys even think about that, or what do you guys think about that?
Well, we all know Nintendo, right? If they bring like games like the Wii Shop had, they're not going to put them on cartridges, right? And sell them for like $5. That's just it probably costs more to make everything, ship them, whatever, and I don't know. I mean, I guess it's a little fuel for the fire saying physical's better, but at the end of the day, someone could snap your disc in half, or a dog could eat your game. Like I seen on Twitter, someone I think got Kingdom Hearts 3 or it was Resident Evil 2, and their dog chewed the living hell out of it, and they couldn't play it.
That's
like,
incredible.
I mean, that could happen, and I mean that means then digital's better. But I mean, yeah, I guess it's all really preference, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it's like a good reason to go physical. I think physical's on its way out the door. It's on its last legs, regardless. Nintendo really did botch up the way they did the eShop and digital purchases. They didn't link the prior accounts before the switch to actual usernames and whatnot. So it's a big mistake on Nintendo's part, but I don't think it's any reason for people to panic and be like, oh my God, look, it happened to the Wii, which came out over 10 years ago or something at this point. And it's going to happen to the Switch 2 and to, the next Xbox and the PS5. We must stay physical because we're all going to lose everything. No, just don't get your account banned and you'll be fine for future generations.
Yeah, I mean, you could have downloaded these and I guess you could technically have them forever, but people will still find a way to complain and be like, oh, well, I can always pull the game off my shelf. If you change hard drives or whatever, like you may lose those downloaded games. I don't know. I agree. I don't think the argument for physical over digital is really, other than the discounts you get on physical, I don't think there's a huge argument anymore, but there will be people arguing to the death about physical over digital, and this will be one of their talking points. I think almost everybody I hear talk about this mentions this argument about, the shops will close. What will you do when the shops close and you won't be able to access your stuff? I mean, at least with the Wii Shop, like you can play those games that you've downloaded without the Wii Shop being active. But I mean, some of the services like the Ultraviolet one, like in some of those instances, not all of the ones that you have on there, but in a lot of those instances, if you haven't redeemed it on another platform or whatever, because I know with Ultraviolet you can redeem on iTunes, I think. If you haven't redeemed it on another one, then you're stuck. You're in trouble. You're not gonna have your movies. But I don't know. I think it's kind of sad. I told my girlfriend this, and she was like, "Oh,
fuck it up."
No, I think she thought it was kind of a big deal, but I mean, she played the Wii a lot more than me. She's very fond of the Wii compared to me. We had an argument. Well, not an argument, but we had a little disagreement today on our company communication channels about whether or not the Wii was a good system. Because have you ever seen that video? You should go back on I think it was on Digital Foundry. I'm not 100% certain, but they do a comparison of Call of Duty 3 on, I think it's Call of Duty 3 on the Wii, the PS2, and the Xbox, like the original Xbox, and the Wii version is the worst of all of them. That's pretty sad,
Yeah.
That's pretty sad. But it wasn't about that, right? The Wii wasn't about that. And the Wii Shop wasn't necessarily all about playing Virtual Console. They had the WiiWare games. Remember those? Those were kind of like the beginnings of indie games.
I don't remember that, but it's been many years since I looked at the store.
Chief Tommy says digital is going to speed up things like what Epic is doing with third-party exclusives. Master Race has it hard. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I wonder if... I mean, I doubt on console you'll have a situation like that, but on PC, man, if Epic can do it, I think a lot of companies are going to try to take down Steam, and it's going to be crazy. It's going to be an all-out war on there. All right, other than that, I think we're done. You guys have anything else to shout out? Assassin, you want to shout out some of your recent dealings on Twitch and YouTube and stuff?
Oh, yeah. Sorry for anyone who follows me on Twitter with all those links. But I put all like if you, I would subscribe to my YouTube channel. I just I put all these Uncharted videos if you're an Uncharted fan, or I'm trying to put more YouTube videos on. If you like more like live stuff, go to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/UPCI Assassin. I do like a lot of things there. I'm just finishing Uncharted 4. That will be also up on YouTube. The rest of it, once the legal Twitch affiliate things are over with that content, and there should be other good stuff. I don't know what I'll be doing after Uncharted. We'll see. Probably some Battlefield, some Call of Duty, things like that, and it should be fun.
Nice. Maybe if he somehow gets gifted Kingdom Hearts 3, he'll stream that too, and then he'll love it, guaranteed. I think Assassin will like it, but I don't know. There's also equal opportunity he won't. So, moral of the story is I'm not buying it for you, sir, Assassin. Clowns, you want to before we get out of here, give a quick shout out again to 4GwQ Presents?
Yeah, guys. So 4GwQ Presents is a new thing we're doing, focused more on pop culture, comics, anime, TV, entertainment, movies, whatever comes up, random topics, comics versus villains, whatever you come up with, be on there. Me and Maverick are doing it, but Inferno and Assassin always welcome on it. And we actually have a upcoming guest that does coloring for Spider-Man and Deadpool directly through Marvel Comics. So it's going to be a pretty good episode. We got some stuff coming up from Zenoscope as well. They gave us review copies of their comics. So did many other distributors. We actually have so many comics now that I need to keep up with it. There's a lot of stuff going on for that podcast.
Yeah, man. Get to reading, bro. Get to reading so you can review those things. At least comics, I mean, not all comics for sure, and I may be generalizing, but at least comics are on the shorter side compared to like books. Imagine if you had a books podcast and people were just like, review my book, and you had to like read like 300 pages of books.
Well, we do have some trade paperbacks that are a few hundred pages long.
No way. Wow.
Yep.
Okay. I spoke too soon then. But anyway, yeah, check out that. Obviously, that's not necessarily on a set schedule, so you're going to have to follow at 4GwQP on Twitter, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel, of course, 4GwQ. Oh, no, that's not it. 4GwQPodcast is our YouTube channel. 4GwQPodcast is our main Twitter, but you're going to have to follow probably all of those in order to find out when. And obviously, if you follow, all of our names have been kind of cycling below our faces here. Follow all of us to get updates on all that kind of stuff. But also, we're on everything. So, search us on like iTunes, Spotify, all that kind of stuff. Give us like a review or like a like on there, whatever the option is, so we can get boosted up in the rating, so to speak. The chat was awesome tonight. Thank you guys for coming in and actually having a brain. Love chats where people come in and have legitimate opinions that, I may not agree with or we may not agree with, but, actually have some basis to it instead of just like PS4 sucks or whatever. So thanks for coming and doing that. And until next time, we will see you guys later. Peace.
Later.
Bye.